Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. Today we are filming my May TBR where I read 68 books. Confirming. Yes. And I'm a bit terrified to talk about all of this because that's a lot of books. But we are going to do it, and I vlogged pretty much everything I read. Enjoy those vlogs if you want more in-depth thoughts. Here I'm gonna be quite brief because I don't want to sit there for 3 hours. May was great. It was Asian readathon. I had a lot of focus on that, but obviously a lot that wasn't focused on that. And without further ado, let's talk about the 68 books I read in May. I have piles of books and they are following. First, I read Before We Say Goodbye by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. This is the fourth and not final book in Before We Say Goodbye series. This follows a cafe in Japan where you can travel in time, but when you travel it doesn't actually affect anything. It used a lot for people to say goodbye to people who are dead or dying, etc. So it is sad, but kind of like nice as well. I feel like at this point the story is a bit repetitive and I don't feel myself as emotionally attached as I did like in the first two, but it's still like cute, and I saw that a fifth one is coming later this year. I read a lot of stuff on my Kindle bar from the library as well for different vlogs for different reasons. So I read Mr. Magic by Kirsten White. This one follows this group of people that used to be in the TV show, but no one actually can see the TV show anymore, and it's kind of gone. It's kind of like a myth, and we don't know if it was real or not. And then they have this reunion years later, and we try to figure out what actually happened. I thought it was fine. I think I liked it more than Hyde, which was basically what I was checking with another adult mystery from the author. I don't think it was terrible, but I don't think it was amazing either. So I just felt like okay with it. And I read Twisted Games by Anna Huang, which is the second book in the Twisted series. This has the bodyguard and princess trope, and I liked it. I liked loads of parts of it. I thought that they were really like cute and good together at points until they actually got together, then they started to annoy me. I do think that most of the relationship was built between the time skip, so we didn't like actually see their trust and their friendship bloom in the book itself because we just skipped in time a lot. And I just like didn't love them as much anymore when they were together because I was just like, now at this point I kind of don't care. So I just ended up feeling like okay with this one as well. Which is apparently what I felt about everything I read this month. The more you read, the harder it is to find truly great books, I feel like. Then I read Beast Complex by Firekeeper, which is the second short story collection in the Beastars world. And I liked the first one much more than this one. It was fine, but like the first one was like what started the whole series. I understand that they would stand stronger, but I still enjoyed to see the world, etc. And now I only have one volume left. Then I read a Breakup Lists by Abid Corham. So this one follows a main character who writes this list for his sister every time a boyfriend breaks up with her. That like writes up all like their bad traits in the way and why they broke up. And then he meets this dude. He's in like the musical theater club at his school, but he's like working backstage and that's what he knows. And then this new dude kind of starts there and they start having a crush on him, and then he starts dating his sister, but then he also has a crush on him. So there's drama to ensue after that. It was really, really sweet. I love a big Coram, as you maybe know if you've been here for a while. And I was super, super excited to read this. And I enjoy his writing so much. I enjoy how he writes characters. But in books like this, obviously there's like this build up to like the last big explosion, kind of like a movie, a rom-com movie. And then like everything will be okay in the end. So like it is predictable in that regard, but it was still fun. I just don't think it was like on pair with Dark the Great Is Not Okay, which is like a completely different thing that I love, but still enjoyable for what it was. I gave this 4. I don't think I've given rating for any of the others. I don't remember what I rated some of them. Then I finished Firekeeper's Daughter by Angeline Bowley, which was my better read with Justine. And this one is set at this reservation where we have a main character starting to work with the police because, or FBI I guess, because like there's these murders happening and like this drug thing happening. So it's kind of like a mystery thing where you're trying to find out who the bad guy is, but at the same time being, I was gonna say, in a different setting than a lot of white contemporaries, and learning a lot about these people. And it is set at like a made-up tribe because the author didn't want to take from a real tribe, but still like from a lot of her own experiences. And I really felt my own ignorance reading this. I was like, it was so many things I didn't know and wasn't sure about, but it made me aware of it, and I really appreciated that. I enjoyed it a lot. I thought that main characters were interesting. I thought the things that were happening and falling out, there were some cool plot twists and stuff happening. I just thought it was a bit long, so it slogged a bit in the middle, so I thought it could have been a bit shorter, but very excited. And we have purchased the second book by the author, so that we're also going to read together, because we really did enjoy this one. So I'm giving it like a rounded up 4. So like a 4. Then I read Record of a Night Too Brief by Hiromi Kawakami. And this one is kind of a 3-story short story collection. This is the same author as Weather in Tokyo, or Strange Weather in Tokyo, sorry. And I didn't really get it. I didn't really get their short stories. They were super weird and bizarre, very like magical stuff, up in the air stuff, and it was like fever dreams, etc. Like one of them, there's like, I think a main character stepped on a snake in the park. That snake comes home with them, and it's like their mother, but they have another mother. I didn't really get it. And there's another one where like people are shrinking, and it was weird. And I get maybe some like maybe philosophical smart stuff is in there, but I'm not smart enough for that. So like, I didn't love it. Then I read Komi Can Communicate, Volume 7, which one was Komi, who has a communication disorder or like social anxiety, and she's trying to get 100 friends, and this was so cute. There was so many cute events in this one. I loved it a lot, and I had a really, really great time. So really, really, really recommend this series. There's like over 30 volumes with the same concept, I think. I feel like there's just like many short stories that kind of connect together, and I think it's done really, really well. Then I read Us Beyond the Wall by Michael Johnson, which was the sequel to The Space Between Worlds, and I did enjoy this, but not as much as Space Between Worlds, which is because that is a story about like parallel universes and like through that kind of social commentary in a way, and I really, really enjoyed that and thought it was amazing. And this one still has a lot of rage and social commentary, etc., which was obviously great, and I thought that was cool. But I felt like the stuff that made The Space Between Worlds like really, really cool was not present, but I might need to reread it. So I was a bit disappointed, but like I still enjoyed it a lot and gave it 4 stars. Then I read All This Twisted Glory by Tara Mafi, which is the 3rd book now out in this Woman Kingdom. And this one follows a main character who is kind of the lost Jinn queen or whatever. And then the Jinns are like hunted down because the king had this vision that the Jinn would bring down his reign, basically. And then she's discovered and they're hunting her, and she right before that had met the prince, and they kind of had like a thing. Story the first book is like kind of a typical setup, but then it goes to directions you wouldn't really imagine, because in the second book there's just conversations, and it was just really enjoyable, even though I feel like there was like enough plot, just vibes. Loved it. And it's exactly the same in this one, almost like there's a bit stuff more happening here, but like still like it's kind of like watching one episode of Game of Thrones, but you don't like actually go anywhere. So like stuff is happening, but it's still just build up to another book again, which is what the second and the third book felt like episodes, and then like the first book was like one season or something. It's so weird. It's so enjoyable, and I'm so excited for the next one. I'm a simp for this series, and it's just so weird in my head like how it is built up and that it works so well. I love that. Then I read Utregning av omfang 1 by Solveig Balle. This one is an originally Danish book, but I read it in Norwegian. And this one follows this woman that is stuck in the same day over and over and over, and she can't get out, so she's like in a time loop. And then I'm always curious about like concepts of this, of how the author kind of explores a concept that is known, and just the way that this character tried to find out like why am I stuck in this time loop was just very interesting, and I thought done really, really well. And I am excited to read the second book, which I also have because I borrowed this at the library, to like see how much more we can explore this concept, because there is going to be a 7-book series about the same thing. And obviously I was like, don't that become a bit repetitive since we're literally repeating the same day? But yeah, at the for example, at the end of this book, we have been in that day a year, so I'm wondering like how that's going to develop. I'm very curious actually, and I really enjoyed it. I'm very happy I did. Then I actually read a full series, which I'm really happy about, because then we can talk about them as a whole. I finished my reread of Walk It As You Wish. This is all on audio. And then I also listened to An Unreliable Magic on audio. And then I ended up reading with my eyes the rules, and because I didn't have time to do the audio. And this is
the full trilogy that is called 100 Names for Magic, and this is kind of set in a world where we're taking lots of stuff from different stories, like the Arthurian legends, Alice in Wonderland, etc., like 3 domain stuff, and mix them up all together with also like Filipino stuff from the author's heritage. And I thought that it was really, really fun. Like, it is obviously not like the best book I ever read and like done incredibly, but I still thought it was super, super entertaining. I really like cared about the characters in the end. I wanted to see their journey to like greatness and wherever they needed to go. I wanted them to defeat the bad guy. I had a really, really good time, and I thought that it wasn't done bad at all. It's full of like very, very diverse cast of characters and social commentary, but at the same time being magical and fun. So I had a good time. I feel like this could have been like a really good like trashy teen TV show as well, which was what I was thinking. I gave them all like 3 stars, but it's like they are enjoyable. I would recommend them for like certain audiences, and I feel like you could have fun with it, but I just don't think it's like the most incredible thing ever, but still like a solid read, and I had a good time, so yay. Then I buddy read with Johanna City of Stairs as well as City of Blade. So this is book 1 and 2 in the Divine Cities trilogy, and we're reading the 3rd one in June. So this one follows one city and it is another one, so like they do have characters that like cross over, but like there's different main characters, and it is basically set in this world where the gods have died, and then certain divine things starts happening again, and then they're investigating in it. Both of them we have investigating murders, and I did enjoy the books. I do think that the world building could have been a bit better. It was a bit confusing when we were just thrown in there, and nothing was really like explained in the first one, and the second one was better, but that's because we knew kind of what we were going into. And I just thought there was just a lot of names, a lot of things, and I thought that at first it wasn't explained really well. So it was interesting, and like you want to see where it was going, but it wasn't like, again, oh my god, best book ever, but it was fine. So I think I gave this 3 and this 3.5, so I liked it slightly more, and I felt like the concepts here were more fun than in the first one, but still like a solid time in both. I'm excited to see what will happen in the 3rd one, where we will follow one of the most interesting characters that have been there since the beginning. Then we have Mashle, which is kind of, I found out, like a parody of the series that shall not be named. But other than that, I feel like it will grow into its own thing. So we have a main character that can't do any magic in a world where everyone does magic. So he just fights magic with muscles, which is kind of hilarious and fun to watch. And I thought the first one was honestly really, really great and fun and had a really, really good humor. So I'm hoping we will derive more away from that other series. Because I didn't really want to think about it. But then I was reading it and then I couldn't stop thinking about it because I saw someone else say that. But overall, I feel like it can be its own thing. Then I read I Want to Die, But I Want to Eat Tteokbokki by Sehi. This one is basically just conversations with this person's psychiatrist, so like her going through stuff. And I thought it was kind of be a bit witty, maybe like a bit snarky because of like the title, you know, of the book. And granted, we didn't really get that at all. I've just felt like we were just having this conversation, and I felt really like flat, like literally transcripts. We had some reflections and then it was over. And I just like, I was gonna say not caring is maybe rude. Like I was interested in this person's life, but it was just not that interesting and wasn't written in an engaging way that made me care. So I was a bit disappointed because I thought it would be something else than it was. It says part memoir, part self-help. And I feel like it was a bit too much self-help for my taste. But I see that there's a sequel. So will I read it? Probably, but we shall see. Then I read The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Porter. This one follows 2 timelines. So we have this one woman back in time where she makes potions for women that are in, like, I was gonna say, either like marriages, etc., where they're basically being abused, and then she helps them poison them. And then in the future we have a main character who has just left her husband who cheated on her, investigating into this apothecary. I guess the whole like point of the story is that she's still helping people even long after she's gone, because it's like 200 years between them or something, or 100 years, at least a lot of years between them. I thought it was fine, but I just like felt like the story didn't go exactly anywhere that I care that much for. I don't know, but it was fine. I give it like a 3. It was a bit like, I don't know how to say without sounding really, really bad, but it was a bit like too much like female power, let's help women, yay. And like I'm all for that, obviously, but for me it became a bit like much. I was like, chill down, but at the same time that's very important, but just the way that I was told doesn't like work with like I guess, the rhythm and stories that I enjoy. Then I ended up reading only one Fullmetal Alchemist, which was 13, 14, and 15. Fullmetal Alchemist follows Ed and Al, who's brothers, and then they had this terrible alchemist experiment, and then now they're trying to get their bodies back, and then they work for the Alchemist for the States, and there's a whole stuff going on there, and it's super enjoyable, and I really enjoy it, so I'm very excited to continue. I think it was manga night here, which is why there's so much manga right now, because I also read Spy Family 11, which is funny because me and Cecilia always have the volume at the same time. Not always, it's happened twice now, and we read this one together as well, and we had a super good time. Follows Master Spy Twilight, who has this Fae family, to go into this, I was going to say, undercover thing, because he's a spy, and maybe this Fae family would definitely turn into something more. It is absolutely adorable and super fun. Then I finished Sweat and Soap, so I read 9, 10, and 11. I didn't get to them the month before when I was going to plan to read the whole series, so I just read them now for the manga night. Absolutely incredible. Loved it to pieces. The last one got a 5-star for like how it managed to wrap up things so nicely, and it was so enjoyable. I might like reread it one day because it was just honestly such a heartwarming and good time. And then I read My Dress Up Darling, Volume 9 by Shinichi Fukuda, which just follows these people are doing these cosplays, and the dude makes the costumes, and I just kind of don't care anymore. I didn't care for any of the characters in this one. I didn't really get what was going on. I just like don't care. So I want this series to end so I don't need to read it anymore. But like, it's not terrible. I just feel like I'm not as interested and invested in the story as I was. Then I read Lord Olympus Volume 3, which is a Persephone and Hades retelling, and we just continue the story of like they meet, and like it's kind of the same. Like I read a couple now and they're all like the same, where like she breaks off from her mother, she meets Hades, blah blah blah, he's kind of the bad guy, but yeah, here kind of stuff develops, and I really enjoy the art because of the colors, so I'm excited to continue. Then I read The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. This was a better read with my friend Ingrid, and we read this together, and I did enjoy it. I couldn't help comparing it to like the TV show, one of my favorites of all time, but I still enjoyed to see the story on its own, while at the same time I don't think it was like as scary and exciting as like for example the show. I do feel like the atmosphere was really great. It was interesting to see the stuff they have made into the TV show. Apparently I'm just a really fan of that, okay, but I still like enjoyed the book for what it was. I don't think it was like an incredible best book ever, but it was a good time, and I thought it was interesting to see it come together, and it was really well written. Then I read Of Curses and Kisses by Zendaya Menon, and this is kind of Beauty and the Beast retelling. We have this Indian princess going to this boarding school where she meets this dude that is the enemy of the family, and then they get a thing, and he has had this like prophecy over him, even though it's not fantasy by the way, that he was going to die on his 18th birthday, and I was like okay. And then they get a thing, and I was just like, I kind of didn't care, and I didn't really get why they start to like each other, which is normal for me I guess. And then the story developed, and I was like, I don't care about anything that's happening, and then the end happened, and I was like, I still don't care. I feel like I gave it a 3, which honestly seems a bit nice now, but okay. This camera thing is moving all the time, because every time I get a book, it falls into the thing. I have a little hatred by Joy Abercrombie. I had to read this obviously for Catch Up Book Club. The light show has already been. This is the like first book in the Lost trilogy, and I did really enjoy this one compared to a lot of the other books in the series. I thought the characters were very interesting at this point, and I really care for them. I want to see like where the stories will go. The plot is thickening, things are happening, and there was this certain like aspect of the story where I was like, oh my god, why is this happening? But it was happening, and it was so like hilariously not funny, obviously. I feel like I gave like this a 3.53, while the others I gave like a 2. So we shall see if I love it more as I read the last ones. And I feel like now this has been a little while since I read like this one, I feel like I have more positive feelings leaving than like when I actually was reading it, which I feel like is a good thing. I had time to reflect, and I liked it more than I thought. Then I read Solo Leveling Volume 8 by Xu Gang, and this one we have like the weakest hunter of humankind that kind of gets his power to level himself up and not be as weak anymore, and it is honestly a great time. We are like in this thing, and I'm describing it really badly, like I'm on Volume 8, so what do you expect of me? But I just love seeing him leveling up and seeing his journey, and other things, like how it affects politics, how this world works with these hunters and these dungeons, and it's just a very, very fun time. So yay. Then I read a book that wouldn't burn by Mark Lawrence, this one about library. And oh my god, I don't even know how to explain it. We follow this main character that is just taken from her home and into the city, and she lucks out and is managing to like get an education and start working in this library, where she meets this kind of person inside the library, but it seems like their timelines are not connecting, and then it all like plays out, and like I was a bit interested and then I was not, so I felt fine about it. Once again, like a 3-star. I read it for a vlog where I feel like I hopefully talk about this much more. So that vlog is not out yet, but enjoy it when it does come. And I also read Blood Over Bright Heaven by M.L. Wang. And this one was a banger. So we are in this world where we have our main character who's always wanted to be like an archmage or like a mage professor person that like does, they're like researchers, scientists kind of, but like obviously with magic. Then she finds out stuff about this magic and this world that she never thought was possible, which is like just a way to, I was gonna say, talk so much about like stuff in our society and how like people react to that, and it was just so fascinating to read. It was such a good time. It was so well done. I was a bit sad about the ending because I wanted it to go maybe somewhere else, but it was still super, super enjoyable, and I almost give it 5, but I think I just give it a really strong 4. But it was just the world building, the writing, the characters, the way it played out. Incredible book, and I kind of want to reread it. Then I read Han Solo by Robin van de Walle, which I bought at the library as well. This is a Norwegian book, and this one follows, I think, the author. Like, it's a bit like self-biographical, autobiographical. I can't even say the word, but you get what I mean, because the main character's named Robin, and he is actually from my city, and he works kind of where I work. So I met him, and then I was really curious about his book, and it was really, really well done. It was so well written, very, very fascinating stuff. I thought the beginning and like the first part of the book was very, very good, and then it became a bit like, I was gonna say more scattered in the end, but it was still very fascinating. I want to see where this character would go, but I felt very close because like this character is almost as old as me. Lives in my city and goes to all the places I go to. And I was just a bit like, oh, this is very close and very personal. Now I'm like, is it real? I don't know. Like, obviously I don't think about this stuff when I read other books, but like I feel like this was a different experience. But it was just very, very well done book. I was like, wow, this is good stuff. So I'm very curious about his next book whenever that is coming. Then I read Killing Stalking by Kogi, which follows a serial killer and a stalker. I was gonna say falling in love, but I guess interacting and doing terrible stuff together, but also being in a super abusive kind of relationship. Absolutely terrible. This was on the edge though. This was stuff developing that should have gone good but did not, and it was insane, but very good time. Then I read To Gaze Upon the Wicked Gods by Molly X Chung, which I know has been talked a lot about lately. But we have a main character that basically is doing everything to protect her family, and then she kind of makes this deal with the people who has, I was gonna say, taken over her homeland, and then she kind of starts trusting one of them, and then everyone has been calling it a colonizer romance, but I was just like, she's allowed to, I was gonna say, go through this journey and then like find out that maybe her feelings of trust was put in the wrong place, because that's kind of what the whole book is about. And I also know that the author's like exploring stuff from her own heritage, and I feel like that should also be allowed. And I don't really get how this is different from like all the other books where like they fall for the enemy, kind of. So I don't know, but I don't think it was incredible, because I do feel like it was lacking in world building and better writing. But it was still like a solid, okay book, and I'm fascinated to see where we'll go. So I gave it like a 3 out of 5. Then I read The Unexpected Everything by Morgan Matson, which was for the Buzzwordathon, because it was the only book on my TBR that had every in the title. And this one followed a main character that was supposed to go to this internship thing, but then she instead watches dogs for the month, and then she meets this dude that they get a thing with, and then it's like a typical YA romance where like they meet and they have friends and drama, blah 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 blah, and she has a complicated relationship with her father, but it didn't need to be 517 pages. I feel like that is kind of a crime for a contemporary YA romance. Yeah. But it was still like good. Okay, fine. 3 stars. Then I read Human Acts by Hanako-kun, which was not at all for me. I didn't understand a single thing that was going on in here. I feel like it was just like an uprising thing, and then there was bodies, like a student uprising, I think, and which was very violent, and there was bodies and we're trying to find them, and then like we were also different people that was like sad because like people they knew died. And then I was just reading a fever dream. It was not for me. I really, really enjoyed the vegetarian, but this I didn't get, so maybe I will read it in a few years when I hopefully am smarter and not dumber. Then I managed to get to Love is a War, Volume 4, and it is so great. It feels these two characters are in love with each other but don't want to admit it, so they kind of go through a lot of Disney games and try to outplay the other person so that they will admit that they like the other, and it's the most adorable, the best thing I ever read. I love them so much. I love that you can just drag out this concept forever. I love the different situations they are put in. Super, super good time. Very, very enjoyable. Then I read, Ghost Talkers by Mary Robinette Caldwell. Mary. And this one is set under the First World War, where we have these mediums that can connect with the spirit. So every time a soldier dies, they go through this medium so they can give last messages and like kind of like if they have any reports of anything they saw. And then our main character's fiance gets not murdered. I mean, he does get murdered, but I was gonna say he dies in the war and everything thinks he just died in this explosion, but it turns out he was murdered, and now they're trying to investigate into how this happened, and we go on this journey. I thought it was fine. I don't personally love more stuff, but it was obviously more focused on other stuff, but like the plot twist, etc. I was just like, okay, but it was really well written, and I thought it was a fascinating concept at least. Then we have The Book Eaters by Sunji Dean, which was a reread where we kind of have almost like Handmaid's Tale setup, where there is these book eaters don't get any girls, so they like married off to these different rich families where they get babies with them and kind of have to leave them. So we have a main character who is a girl, and then she had to get married away and get babies, and then in the future she's on the run and she's with a child, and then we are like, what's going on, what happened here, and then we try to explore and find out. I thought it was very, very fascinating and good of how it plays out. I feel like I enjoyed and appreciated it much more now upon reread than when the first time I read it, where I felt like things could have been more explored and like the ending was a bit rushed, but I still like enjoyed it a lot more now. But I kind of want more. If we could have more, I kind of want more, and I feel like there's a lot of more to explore in here. I thought the concept of eating books and how that affects them, and I know also you can get an instance where you can get a child that eats people instead. So I thought that like all of that could have been explored more, and I thought it was really interesting, and I gave it a strong 4 out of 5 this time around. Then I managed to get to One Piece this month, 46, 47, and 48, which was honestly such a good time. This Thriller Bark stuff, like it felt like we were in Halloween, and it was a really, really fun time. So I'm very curious to see how this arc will wrap up, and hopefully I will read that now in June. Then we have A Feast for Crows by George R. Martin, which is obviously the 4th book in A Song of Ice and Fire. Now I can read the 5th book, which I haven't read before, but this was a reread, and I thought that this was not as good now as it was the first time I read it. I thought it was weird to like cut half the point of views, but at the same time we want to focus more on like King's Landing in this than in the others. And I do think obviously that it was good, but yeah, I love the characters, love the world. Sad that the 5th book is the last one, if you know what I mean. Then I read Totally Bound Hanako-kun by Adventuyre, Volume 7. This one follows Totally Bound Hanako-kun that is stuck kind of connected to this toilet, which is one of the 7 wonders in the school, and we have a main character and Hanako-kun exploring this school and finding the different wonders, and there's like paranormal and supernatural stuff happening. It's a good time. It has a hint of sadness. I am a bit confused actually with what is going on right now. I'm kind of just there at this point for vibes because I'm not really 100% sure what is happening. I feel like maybe I should have read the volumes closer together. I could do that upon reread later. I can kind of see the end of this list, but there's still a lot of books left. So we have Beautiful Country by Kwan Julie Wang, who writes about her family immigrating to the States, or I guess being undocumented for years until she immigrated, and how she grew up, and etc. It was a really touching and heartfelt read. I thought that it was written really, really well and had a lot of like different cool reflections. I would want even more from, I guess, the adult life, but I guess it's more focused on like her childhood, and it was a really, really well written, good memoir. Then I read Howling Dark by Christopher Riccio. This is the 2nd book in the Sun Eater series, where we have a main character that hints to this big, huge future future that he has, where he has done a lot of things in this sci-fi universe. And then we just start out in the first book, at least, on this journey to where he will become whatever he talks about that he will come. And I thought that this one was not as enjoyable as the first one, but at the same time, I felt like the first one, we just had a lot of details and like nothing was happening for such a long time, and like we were just going to every detail, but that was really more fascinating. And I thought that this one had stuff revealed and stuff explored. I just like didn't love it as much, I guess. I want to see where we're going now, because I don't know now if I will like keep enjoying the series. I'm unsure. But there was still stuff in here that when I think about it, like at least the stuff in the end, I was like, oh my god. So I am curious to see how he's going to become this person he talks about becoming. Now, I'm very happy that I decided to read this full almost manga series so that I can just squish them all together. For my Patreon readathon, I could read whatever I wanted because we were celebrating my birthday in May. So I read the rest of Chainsaw Man that I had. I know that 15 is out now, but I don't have it yet. So I read from 9 to 14 and it was great. It was so great. I did not expect anywhere of this would go. I didn't even know that we were going to have several arcs. I did not think that it would go the way it went, because I didn't know that that was the kind of story it was. I'm just shocked beyond words. Like, what do I do now? Like, obviously I'm really enjoying where we are now in the story. I'm just like shocked that that was how it went, because now I'm like, how long is this gonna be? I really like the concepts. I like how chaotic it is. I like that like it feels like the author's just like giving no shits and just like, I'm gonna do whatever I want, and I love that. And it is so weird, but so enjoyable. Definitely not a series for everyone, but a series that right now is like one of the favorites I'm reading, and I'm so ready for more chaos to explore more. But honestly, like, what even happened here? Because so I needed to. I don't even have words. Then I read Oskespiralen by Leanna Junne, which is a Norwegian book that won a prize. I didn't really get anything that was happening in this one. It was just words. It was just very, I don't know how to describe it, but very old-fashioned in the writing that made me like not grasp the story fully. I was intrigued in the first 2 chapters, and then it completely lost me. I think it was even some sort of like, we were doing something with a stone, and I'm like, what is going on right now? So yeah, not a book for me at all. Then I read Dark Star Burning, Asphalt White by Emily Van Schau, which like obviously wrapped up this trilogy. And I did think that it was okay. Like, it just felt like an okay YA fantasy. Had some cute and good moments. I enjoyed the first one okay. I enjoyed this one okay. I thought that they are a good, solid duology together that you could recommend to people. I don't think like the world or the characters specifically for me or the writing was like spectacular or like really stood out for me that would make it very memorable series for me, other than the fact that I have really pretty additions. But still, like, an okay, enjoyable read, if you know what I mean. But it kind of goes exactly where you think it will go. And then they had like a bit of an annoying ending, but like fine, I am accepting it and moving on. Then I read 11% by Maren Uthaug, which basically means that there is only needed in this future world 11% of the human population is male. People with penises, people who can produce with penises. So they are controlled in like these, I was gonna say, institutions, while like the other women are living free, and we follow a different point of view of different women in this society and how they're living and how they grew up a bit and like what is going on. It is very weird. Left like a kind of bad taste in my mouth for certain aspect that it was trying to explore, but I don't think it explored very well. I wanted to enjoy it because I do think a concept can be fascinating, but I always feel like when you separate a society into 2 genders, it becomes very not inclusive of a lot of trans people in general, and just like, yeah. So I feel like it wanted to do something, but for me it didn't work out properly. But I talk more about this in my blog, which, yeah, but it didn't work for me and didn't hit, I think, where I want to hit for me at all. Then I read Ham's Official Blessing Volume 1, which I really want to love and enjoy, because it is, you know, a male thing between these 2 people. It's like a reborn god prince that like keeps being reborn even though everyone hates him and he does stupid stuff. And then he meets this dude, and I thought that I would really enjoy it, but it was just written so confusingly. It was written a bit like a K-drama, or maybe we should say a C-drama since it is Chinese, but then at least you can see them and like have an overview of what is going on. But like here was just like the tone of the story was written like, you know, like the narrator comes in the beginning of a drama that like narrates who they are. That was like the tone of the whole thing. So just the tone of the story was just super weird to me. It was very like narrative in a different way. But maybe I just need to get used to it. There's like 8 volumes and I am planning to read the rest. I didn't hate it, but I thought I would love it more, and I was just kind of confused and not really caring about anything, which felt a bit sad. Then I read The Tyrant's Throne, or just Tyrant's Throne by Sebastian D. Castel, which is the final book in a Great Coat series, but there's like more sequel series out. So this was goodbye to our Great Coats, and it was so good. I really love how this played out. I love all the characters, but like stuff in here happened that I did not think was gonna happen. And it broke my heart, but it was so good. It was so good to see it play out. Masterfully drawn plots, if you can say that, and the characters are great. You really grow with them, and I really loved it. So 5 stars. We have This Time Is Real by Anne Liang, which was another YA contemporary, where this girl writes this fake essay about like her and her boyfriend, and it goes viral, and then she has this other dude that pretends to be her boyfriend that is kind of famous, and then stuff happens from there, and it was so cute. I almost cried. It was just so cute, and Anne Liang just really good YA contemporaries. I read now 3, which I think is all that's out, and I need more. They are done so well. So this was super enjoyable and very much recommend, and exposed so many fun things, and yeah, really well done. Then I read House of Hollow by Crystal Sutherland. It follows these 3 sisters that disappeared when they were kids and then came out and had like different hair color, different eye color, etc. And we trying to find out like what happened to them. And I mean now a few years later, where like another sister has disappeared once again, and then they're trying to find her, and I'm trying to find out like what really happened all those years ago. And I felt like the suspense and like building up to this was so well done. The writing was really good. It kept you really like, what is gonna happen? And I really like care for the sisters. I liked how they were described. I liked like the atmosphere of the story was done really well. And like the answers were a bit weird for me, but I still think it worked, and I still think it was a fun story. So yeah, it was a solid one. Another solid one, which I feel like I deserved after having a lot of mid ones this month. Then I read JoJo's Bizzare Adventure, which is volume 1 of part 2 Battle Tendency in the series. And I was so confused because we are kind of with a new main character, and I didn't get it because they look so similar, and I was so confused, and I'm kind of just confused of this whole volume, but we shall see how it ends up to not be confusing. Hopefully we shall see. But it was just it was so funny. I was like, what is going on? I have no idea, but yeah. Then I read A Tempest of Tea by Hafsa Faisal, which is the newest book by the author, and we have heists and vampires. So we follow this crew that is gonna steal this thing, and then we have 3 point of views, even though there are 5 people. There's also vampires in this world, and it is set in the same world as We Hunt the Flame, but like far away in another country, which was a bit fun because we did mention stuff from there. I wanted to like it. I just felt like there was a lot of like just dialogues with no events, and like the heights itself wasn't even that cool. And the vampires itself, I wish we explored more, so like I would care more for like what is going on here, but it wasn't. So I just felt totally fine by it. I didn't hate it, I didn't love it. Then I finally continued the War of Eternal series. So we had Lessons Never Learned by Robert J. Hayes. The first one follows Asuka, who is stuck in a pit, which is like a really terrible person, and then they're trying to escape. And here we continue that story. For some reason, this didn't go at all where I expected. We had so many like elements in this that, well, start off I was just like, is this gonna be a plot? And then it turned out to something else, which also was very interesting in itself. And just like the way that the story developed and the way that we are exploring and doing more stuff, I'm just like, dang. So now I really want more. Obviously I have the rest of the series. I need to read them ASAP, but I don't have any time right now. But very fun stuff, very good stuff. I feel like I don't want to obviously say anything about this like in detail, because like if you haven't read the first book, you don't want to be spoiled, obviously. But just such a good fantasy series, and I think it benefits so well from being indie, because the author clearly like goes away from stuff that you expect in a fantasy series, because I feel like a lot of published ones, or like traditionally published ones, can go in a pattern sometimes, and this one does not, and I thought that was great. Then I read the Jasad Heir by Sarah Hassan, which I really want to try. but I didn't at all. I didn't care. We have like a heir fleeing. It says here, I'm trying to remember, of these people. And she has been hiding her magic all her life, and then she attracts the attention of like the prince of like the place that has like suppressor people. So kind of like to gaze upon the wicked gods. But this one was not as good as that one. I just didn't enjoy myself in this one at all. I feel like maybe now I can't remember anything because like I was honestly tired with the whole thing at that point. So yeah, I wish I enjoyed it more like in the justified fantasy, but I didn't. I'm sorry. Maybe I will reread it on audiobook later. Then I read Remina by Junji Ito, which was the next Junji Ito I need to read. And it was really weird. We had this planet kind of attacking them, and not the best one at all. Didn't really like this one because I thought it was just didn't go anywhere for me. Even though the art is obviously still stunning and the atmosphere is great, I just like, yeah, maybe I was a bit harsh on it when I think about it now. I think I liked it more now than when I was actually reading it. Then I read The Forbidden Wish by Jessica Coley, I think it was. And this one was actually Aladdin retelling, which I didn't know when I read it. Then we follow the point of view of the jinn that falls in love with Aladdin, and they get the thing instead for the princess. Then we have some twists on the Aladdin story, if you know. I think if you know the story, this is more fun. But I don't think it was incredible. I feel like the writing wasn't that good. There were so many more things that could have been explored, I think. And like the wrap-up was way too fast. But still like enjoyable, more so than I thought. Then I read Sorry Not Sorry, Dreams, Mistakes, and Growing Up by Naya Rivera. This I read on audio, and obviously very sad because Naya has passed away. And I really, really loved her voice. She is funny and she's a great narrator. She writes about her growing up poor, and then also the struggles she had, and then like insecurities, and then also obviously her years of Glee. I feel like there was something lost over there, and I feel like there was like some word used, like the R word was used, and I was like, what, etc. in the book that I was very shocked by. And like there was like these lists at the end of each chapter of what she was sorry for and what she was not sorry for that she had written about, and I thought that we didn't need those lists because I was like very put off by them. So like overall like parts were really good, but not all the parts was like, what is going on right now? So yeah, I gave it a solid 3. Then I read The Sword of Kaigen, which was the better read in my Patreon Discord throughout the month by Emma Wang. We read 1 chapter a day for the whole month. There was 31 chapters. This was so good. Absolutely incredible. It was this family that basically are known to be these warriors, and well, stuff happens there in the village they live in. I don't know what to say, but it looks like the way that I thought we would expand the story, but instead stayed at this village, stayed with this family, just made the story so good. You care so much for these people. You care so much for what is going to happen to them. And the writing, the world building, it was just so incredibly well done. I absolutely loved it. I'm rating it up to 5 stars. I knew that I was going to really like it, but it was just so good. And just the way since we read 1 chapter a day, it felt a bit like watching an episode a day almost sometimes. So just like the way we slowly went through the story and like experienced it together, it was such a good time, and I really, really enjoyed it. Then I read Whisper Me a Love Song by Eko Takashima, Volume 7. I just don't care about his story either. My Dress Up Darling and this one, I have something in my eye, is I guess the 2 manga series that I just kind of should maybe have DNF if I DNF, but I am going to complete them. This is a Yuri manga. We have these 2 girls that are in love. One of the girls plays in a band, but it's just like so many characters that sometimes are on the pages, and I don't know who they are because I feel like either they look all similar or they have not been properly introduced, and it annoys me. But yeah, so I'm liking it okay, but I kind of don't need it to be long, you know? And the last book I have for you here today is System Collapse by Martha Wells, which was the final one now out in the Murderbot Diaries, which was then completing our series read-along of the series in my Patreon. So I enjoyed it. Murderbot is fun. It is another adventure. We are going around saving people and doing stuff, and yeah, I just love the development if you look at this from the first book. And I'm excited to have the live show with my patrons very, very soon. And that leaves us off with the 68 books I read in May. I feel like I talked way too long. and now my voice is dying and I'm gonna go. So thank you so much for watching. Leave a guitar emoji down below if you enjoyed this, and you should see me soon in a new one. My voice is dying. I'm dying. Why do I live? I don't know. But yeah, you should see me soon. Thank you so much. Bye.